Hey guys, Reagan Reese here, just making a video about my air conditioning installation, little hookups or hangups, and some tips I have and some wisdom to share. So I've been wanting air conditioning forever. As a 17-year-old, that's a pretty big project, and I wasn't ever one to really tinker around with a bunch of stuff. I found a guy. His name is Tony from Hwy83 Suzuki. Hwy83 Suzuki, which is right there. Anyway, super cool guy. Hooked me right up. I purchased a whole entire kit for $450 plus shipping, which was $49, I think, or something like that. And actually, all I had in my bank account was about like $4 something. I was just $2 short, and he actually took a couple bucks off for me, which is really cool. Love you if you're watching this. So anyway, so this is a 98 X-90, and what you need to look for when you're thinking about doing air conditioning is a 96 through 98 Geo Tracker, Chevy Tracker, etc. Air conditioning. Anyway, that's what you want to look for. You want to make sure all the parts are there, and I will show you a picture of every single part that you need, or I'll go over it. I don't know how I'm going to do it, but magic of editing will do it for me. But anyway, everything arrived, the compressor arrived, and I was ready to go one day. So let's pop the hood, or it's already popped. I'll just open it really quick. Nice, so it's actually cold outside, so this heat feels good. Okay, so as you can see, the air conditioning is installed, and you can tell easily by this tube right here that goes across and down to the compressor down there. And also the condenser right here, which has 96 red on it, and a fan. So basically, the parts that you will install, you'll put in the engine bay, are as follows. The compressor. Now absolutely make sure you call for the power steering one. As you can see, I have my power steering way down there, and it's also going, or the belt for the power steering is also going over the compressor and then to the crank at the engine. So I had a hookup or a snag when I didn't specify if I needed a power steering or non-power steering bracket, and when I got the wrong bracket, I was just absolutely losing it because I couldn't figure out how it worked. Anyway, with that said, so you'll put the compressor down there. There's a little bracket, tiny little thing that fits on your power steering already, which is these. I'll put a picture up. Without the compressor there, it'll go right in those holes. And also your engine block right before the manifold has two bolts, which I will highlight right here, that go, right there. So, and mine actually fell out one day, and so you have to make sure to tighten those, of course. Now with that, you'll have two lines off that compressor. One goes to the interior of the car, and wow, my radiator's leaking, I just noticed. That's nice. Brand new. Anyway, so one line goes to the condenser. Now, I didn't have to take my bumper off or anything. I did have to take this off. I don't know what it's called, but this right here, that had to come off, which is just, a couple snaps and two snaps on either side right there. And once you have that, it's pretty difficult to get to, but if with some finger manipulation and some tools, you can do it. There is 4 mounts right here. This one required a nut, as you can see right there, and the bottom one did not. It was already welded in. And on the other side, on the bottom, it does not require a nut, or does it? I can't tell. I think it does. And then on the top here, you'll have another bracket, which will actually go to your dryer right here, receiver. So that'll kind of share the same, as you can see right down here. It's not focusing, but right here it shares that same bracket, and up here, that's just for that. So there's your condenser, and your fan just has 4 little tiny short bolts. They're just tiny that mount right onto that condenser, as you can see right there. So that's and then you have that line right here from the compressor. Then you have the other line going to your dryer. And so with that, we'll hit the dryer really quick. So the dryer mine needed to be replaced. If these sit out in the open for a while, they will kind of get saturated with moisture, and it pretty much ruins it. But don't fear, it's like a $6 part, and they had it next day for me, so super cheap. Just get a new one in the first place. Just save yourself the trouble. And with that, you'll have another line, which is this entire block thing right here, you have your high pressure fill port and your little seeing eyeglass thing. It's kind of cool, and then the bolt to mount it, and then this will go under there into the interior as well, and this line of course goes into the interior as well. Let's look at the wiring really quick. So if you order this, you will get a little wiring harness for it. Now the fuse, let's start from here and work our way forward. So here nothing actually goes into the cab, it's just all outside. You'll have a bunch of wires that one goes into the fuse box underneath, which is pretty easy to do. My fuse is already in there, AC right there. Next, you'll have a little probe thingy on your engine block, as you can see. Wow, this is not focusing. Anyway, you can see right there, and I didn't get that the first time. Oh my gosh, focus, jeez. I did not get that the first time, so make sure you order that. And it actually just screws right into where the hot liquid comes out into the radiator. So, and then you also have a little ground here. Make sure this is clean. Mine wasn't clean, and this kind of controls the fan. So if your fan isn't kicking on, try looking at that. My bolt was rusty and the thing was all painted. So it's since been fixed like that. And you'll have two little, I can't remember what these are called, but you'll have two little clicky thingies that turn it on and off. And I think that's about it. Oh, there is one other plug right there, and that just goes into the firewall. But that loom that you get is all external, and you can't really misplace anything. It can only go one way. Of course, one of those little leads plugs into your dryer receiver, and another one plugs into your fan right here, and a tiny little wire. Look at this. I didn't really have a connection on it, or connector, but anyway, that kicks on your compressor. And if you're wondering why this is really small, it doesn't actually have to power the compressor, it just has to tell a magnet to move. So I don't know, when I first saw that, I thought I was missing a ton. I thought I needed a cable this big to take care of that. Anyway, so with that, I think that's all the front. I think I've covered everything. Definitely replace that dryer no matter what. It's like $9. Save yourself the trouble now. And take this off for easier condenser mounting. And I think that's it for in here. There's a good shot of what the finished product will look like. Mine didn't have any problems touching my hood, so I don't think yours will either. So now let's go inside. Okay, now we're in the car, and as you can see, you can't really see anything. Now, this is the box. This is the AC. There is, the actual, it looks like a heater core kind of, and it has a little expansion valve on it. And please do replace that expansion valve. My AC was already installed, everything was good, but it just wasn't blowing cold. And when I would sit idle, it would actually heat up in the car and just start blowing warm air. So I had to replace that. It's another like $6 part or something like that, but it is a pain in the butt to change. Especially, you have to go back to the mechanic and have him, drain and vacuum the system, and then you have to take it out, disconnect the lines, and then put it all back together. It's just a major headache. So replace that expansion valve no matter what. It's super easy to do. You can't get it wrong. Anyway, enough of that. You'll have a little box that goes right here, slides right there. I think it's like the brains of it, not totally sure. And of course your lines, you can't see it from this angle, but your lines will come through the firewall. And right here, right above my finger, is a little hole where a bolt will go through, and there's a nut on the other side. It's super easy to do. And I actually had to, as you can see, this is the water, the moisture, you know, as the AC gets cold, moisture gets on it and needs to escape, or you'll have a flooded box and there'll be water everywhere on the floor. But I had to drill my firewall because I had the, you know, the box right here, but the hole was way far away, and it was just way too close to use the factory hole. But little drill, no problem with that. And then the two lines go through, and you just hook them up outside. I'll put a picture up right now of a 27 millimeter I had to cut in half to even remotely get to the top, or the low pressure, or the low pressure line, because that tunnel up there is just insanely tight and you can't get it with a full-size wrench. So with that said, I will put my thing down and spill it all out, but demonstration purposes it's alright. So I had to take out my glove compartment. I had to take this brace off, and sometimes I had to take that off. You will need this wiring right here. I was missing this before. This plugs into that little brain box down there, and then it plugs way up there. I don't think I can get a shot, but anyway, that controls that. This box right here also has a, the box right here has a little plug. I think this tells it to turn on and off when it's a certain cold temperature. And another, which is right there, this connector right here plugs into your actual air conditioning button. And so I did not have this, and I was just, oh my gosh, I was just having a meltdown because I could not figure out where to plug my button and everything in. Because everybody was telling me that this is always in the car. It's not. You have to, that comes with the kit. Anyway, continuing with this box, I was handed a little kind of wrappy thing. I don't know what it's called, but it seals the box and the rest of the duct system together. And I was lacking a side for this. It was just straight through. I didn't have any way to seal it, but just with some tape, some foam tape, which you can see on the right, it helped with noise, but it's still not sealed. But after, putting your hand there with the fan on full blast, nothing really seems to have a leak, and it's no big deal. So I guess it's just open forever. That's about it for under here. There's nothing else really. Just remember to take this off, or it'll be impossible. And this box just drove me insane getting in and out. It is, I don't know why it's so hard. Maybe I'm doing it wrong, but there is a trick. If you're doing it, just be patient, just think it through, make sure, try everything. Don't just give up and try one thing over and over like I was. With that, now let's look at the air conditioning system on. So now with the car running, we are at 1,000 RPM, just sitting. This got a little cool. I just drove it 20 miles on the freeway and went in the house for about 30 minutes. So the AC is off, and I'll just turn it on right now. So I don't know if you heard anything, but there's a little click. The engine will idle a little bit higher, and the AC button lights up. And it's kind of slow for me, but once it kicks on, it's really cold. So now here's inside the engine. The compressor is really quiet, but the fan is kind of loud. But that's about it. And you know, it just behaves like any other AC system, where it'll turn on and off when it's, you know, running cold enough, and you can't really notice. Just shut the car off like that with it on. It's totally fine, of course. Now, some driving tips, because when I first got this, you know, being used to basically no restriction on the engine, and then having that compressor go on it is completely something else to get used to. Like I said, my expansion valve under the dash was just completely closed, you know, when it wouldn't blow cold air. So I think that compressor was working extra hard to kind of try to get the fluid going through, but it can't. But anyway, it will take a little bit getting used to. I would describe it as maybe a 10% tax on the engine. It's not that noticeable, but driving around town, especially, you know, this is a manual, and the way I would kind of feather the throttle and clutch had to be adjusted just a bit. Don't worry about the car dying if you have AC on. You know, that it's smart enough that little, I bet that box down there says, hey, the computer to idle just a bit faster. Other than that, it's pretty straightforward. Make sure you have all the parts before you start. If all goes well and you have all the necessary gear and everything, I think this is about a 5-hour project, minus the time it takes to charge. And, you know, like I said, I just took that to a mechanic that knows what he's doing. He charged me $200 to do the whole system, and he actually did a lot more because it was a lot of trial and error. So he probably recharged and discharged his system like 5 times or 6. It's ridiculous. My system took about a month to install, just because I was lacking parts and all this extra stuff. But yeah, that's the AC system. If you're thinking about doing it, go for it. It is, once you have it, there's nothing like, you know, I was just bouncing off the walls when I drove it from the mechanic. So that's it, I hope. If you have any questions, leave them down below, and I will try to help you as much as possible. I will link that Hwy83 Suzuki guy, super cool guy. Tell him I sent you. I'm not affiliated with him in any way. I just, you know, like to support what I think is good, and yeah, it is totally worth it. And if you're thinking about doing it, go for it. Anyway, I'll see you guys later. Thanks, bye.